Hey gamers, today we're going to compare and contrast the Vikings with the ancient Chinese Han Dynasty. So, Mamma Mia, Papa Pia, I need sleep. Alright gamers, how about we take a look at the political aspect of both of these civilizations. Let's start with the Vikings. Now, the Vikings were not one group of people, it was actually a bunch of smaller group of Norsemen that formed their own clans and villages. Each village had their own chieftain that ruled over the village and communicated with other chiefs. Typically, all free men in the village were allowed to take part in a special meeting called The Thing. No, I am not kidding, it was actually called The Thing. The chief would facilitate the meeting, and all the men in the village would discuss things like laws, punishments, who owns what land, stuff like that. Needless to say, this looks pretty darn equal when it comes to who had a say in the political system. Well, what about the Han? Well, obviously, they had an emperor who had pretty much total control over everything like the laws, and the police, and the entire army. Now, who else had a say in the government's important choices? The answer is a very, very small amount of people. Pretty much only the aristocrats and other government officials that the emperor appointed had much of a say in the important law choices. Oh, what's that I hear? You're just a lowly farmer that wants to have any kind of choice in the law? That's right, go back to your farm. As a peasant, the most you could really do was wait for the emperor or the other officials to do stuff. So I give this place an equality rating of, 2 out of 10 bloops. I'm not satisfied. Alright, social time. Let's look over how these civilizations interacted socially. The Vikings had 3 social classes. Earls/Jarls, the highest class consisting of chiefs, kings, and aristocrats. Carls, the middle class consisting of free men and women. And finally, Thralls. They were slaves. They all go by a few different names, but I'm not going to try and pronounce this monstrosity. These names are very broad and only a rough way of describing social class. In reality, this was far more of a spectrum than clear and distinct levels. It was also possible to move through classes. If you bungled up with your bank account enough, you could easily make up your debts by selling yourself and becoming a thrall. You could also earn enough money in your free time as a thrall and become a carl. Same thing with the jarls. If you gain enough wealth, you can start living the high life. Basically, your social status was heavily based on your wealth. Well, now, how about the Han? Well, they also had 3 main social classes. The upper class consisting of the emperor and his officials and some aristocrats. The middle class consisting of farmers and peasants. And the lower class consisting of artisans and craftsmen. You could get more specific, but these are the main ones. Much like the Vikings, it was possible to move between classes. However, unlike the Vikings, the hierarchical structure of the Han had much clearer distinguishment between the classes than the Vikings. The Han were much more interested in your skills. If you were a scholar, you were highly valued in society and could probably make it to the emperor's court. If you could farm and grow crops for food that the wealthy depended on, then you were of very high value. If you could make fancy luxury goods for the higher class to enjoy, then you were also valued. If you were a talentless rat living in your mom's basement, then I have some bad news for you, buddy. Alright, intellectual time. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the philosophy aspect of intellectual for our purposes today. The Vikings weren't super well known for famous philosophers or anything, but they did have some basic unsaid rules of respect in their communities. One is called the principle of reciprocity, which was a huge deal for the Vikings. Reciprocity is the process of exchanging things for mutual benefit. When a chief earned things from raids and pillages, he had to pay back his followers that helped him in the form of jewelry and epic feasts. It was a rule between all classes of people, no matter how rich you were, you gave back to your followers. This was a sign of loyalty and respect between the chief and the warrior. This was also a rule seen in their religion and in their slave trade. It's pretty clear that this rule was integrated into society with equality in mind. Now let's see what the Han have to offer. The Han adapted many philosophies, so let's take a look at what they found. The Han had acquired Confucianism, legalism, and Taoism. Confucianism was the belief that you should respect your superiors, like your parents, and the government. Legalism was the idea that the emperor was an all-powerful god, and the emperor enforces this by making sure there is absolutely no room in your tiny little head for you to even start questioning his authority. Next up, Taoism, where you take a little break to make some offerings or prayers in heaven to hope that you live a long and peaceful life. And by long and peaceful, we mean that we want you to bow down, be quiet, and never question the Emperor's authority for the rest of your subservient little life. Yeah, as you can see, these rules were implemented with the Emperor in mind. Now let's compare and contrast. As we can see, when it comes to the people that had a voice in the political system, Vikings sure do win in equality by a landslide, seeing as their decision-making is structured after direct democracies. The philosophy of reciprocity was also very telling of the fact that the Vikings really valued equality in their society. We can see that the Han dynasty had modeled their government structure to be completely ruled by pretty much only the upper class. It integrated philosophies such as Confucianism into their society that repressed the lower classes and kept the upper class the sole decision makers. Vikings were powerful pillagers and raiders, so they valued having many loyal warriors to command, which is why having the loyalty and respect of your warriors in Viking society was such a big deal. The Han dynasty encouraged inventions and further development of society as a whole, so scholars and other knowledgeable people were naturally high class, whereas people with little to no skills were kind of forgotten about. Now, is inequality inevitable in human societies? Yes, at least I think so. There are certain attributes in societies that people are going to value more than others because of certain traditions that the society practices, such as the Vikings valuing the warriors or the Hans' advancement in knowledge making them value the scholar. This can form groups of people that have more power than others in a society, thus creating inequality. However, as the Vikings and Han also show, inequality can come at varying levels of intensity. Conclusion? When societies value certain aspects above another, it creates an opportunity for people of those certain aspects to seize power over the society that depends on them. Should we revive them? No. Humans made that Secret Life of Pets movie. No matter how advanced they are, if they made something like that, we're leaving them in the ground, dude. We do not need a trilogy. Anyway, I don't remember where I was going with this. Now that I have spent 2 days on this script and I have to drop this whole thing, allow me to take a quick nap as the hours count down before this is overdue. Thank you for watching. Good night.